Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us for this special live session. I'm Itzik Amiel, and we are here with a weekly Switch interview series, Switch It On, when we talk to a smart and talented people about how you can switch your practice and your life. And you are invited. So if you're watching us now, we are live. You're very, very welcome to join us. It's for free, and you have nothing to lose based on your time. And again, I'm invited all of you are there. Please you put your name and where you're dialing from in our chat so we know you're here, you know you're joining us, and also our guests will know. Today we're talking about exciting subject I also love to talk about and hear about gaining market insight from events. So in other words, how to use event intelligence to grow your practice. A lot of you missing it, and that's so fun to hear today. Insightful and fresh thinking that a lot of you maybe never heard before. And again, I encourage all of you, and I see people already joining us. So thank you very much for that. Thank you very much, Labu, for joining us. The Cuckoo, I'm happy that you are with us. He said, I'm looking forward to coming our virtual book club. Please don't forget. Oh, great. Thank you for inviting me and to reminding me here on the live. And thanks to everybody else for joining us. Diana, Alex, Bargali, Bonjo, Dean, Copet, David, Alex, all of you here, please dial in the chat box. Let us know who you are. You know, I must admit that I have the honor, really privilege, and I hear a lot, I talk a lot of people and stuff, but these are real friends. To have this live session with really a top intelligent expert and author and a dear person. I love you. Sure, after that, if you meet him the first time, we'll love you. My special guest and friend is Professor Jonathan Calof. But before I invite Jonathan, before I tell you, let you say anything, you can say hello now if you want, Jonathan. But I want to give some highlights about you before that. If you allow me. Most time, by the way, Jonathan, just because I'm your friend and you are with me, most time I do it behind people back because they feel embarrassed when I read the resume. But with you, I know we know each other for a while, and I have no problem saying it because all true and authentic thing. But Professor Jonathan Calof is recognized as one of the top leaders in intelligence and foresight. And I want you to remember that he has been involved with trade show for most of his life, starting with staffing booth, even building booth, and later running event intelligence mission. And by the way, that's where we met in one of those big trade show and events where both were speakers. Jonathan has given over 1,000 speeches, seminars, keynote addresses around the world on intelligence and foresight. And he has written many articles on event intelligence and had authored and co-authored several books. And I must admit that each one of them has different insight, a fresh in look in the same subject but totally different angle. And hopefully today we will get a different angle for our professional service industry. Jonathan has been given several honors, including Frost and Sullivan Lifetime Achievement Award in Competitive Intelligence, Fellow Awards from the Society of Competitive Intelligence Professionals, Honorary Professor of Yunnan Normal University in China, and more, and much more. Jonathan is also UNESCO co-chair of the Anticipatory System for Innovation and New Venture, and a full professor at the Telfair School of Management at the University of Ottawa. So without further ado, welcome, Jonathan, and thanks for joining us.
I can tell you're my good friend because you gave an introduction similar to what my mother would do. So,
I'd love to shorten it. I always felt guilty not to tell all those accolades, all the amazing thing, because, a lot of people still don't know you, and hopefully after today we'll know how kind and nice person you are above anything else.
And that's something everybody should know. So, anytime you see me, I'm just a friendly, warm puppy dog. The titles might sound impressive, and I appreciate the introduction, but at the end of the day, I'm a people person trying to, expand my network, meet really good people, and learn new things.
And that's how we both privileged to know each other. Thanks very much for those who are joining. Joe, thank you very much for letting us know you're here. And also, all of you joining, please put in the chat where you are, where you're dialing from. So again, thank you, Jonathan, for joining us for the valuable time. And again, to speak with the audience, with your permission, let me set the stage for our conversation so we can dive right away in. Because professional firms spend a lot of money to sponsor and to exhibit, in conferences around the world, event, trade show, exhibition, every year around the world. And we all know that, especially after the corona, they started all over again. And they spend a lot of money, sending their people, marketing, strategic resources, and so on all those events. And as a result, they're also often having to be quite selective about what conferences and events they choose and what conferences they send people in order to measure the return on investment spending all this money. And secondly, at these conferences, many professional firms share their strategic plans for the future. So there's a lot of information for the future, and there's a lot of information, there's a lot of opportunity to see what other firms are doing. What are they planning to do? Now, I have no doubt that these events and conferences are great places for developing the insights needed to win in the marketplace if you just pay attention in the right places. And the book, Gaining Market Insight from Event, by you, Professor Jonathan Calof, presents a layout, a toolkit, if you want, that will help maximize this opportunity and help your organization improve its event return on investment and help its anticipatory efforts. We're going to hear about it today more. And that's exactly, by the way, the reason for this special session with Jonathan. So, Jonathan, I'm studying always those live sessions with what I call 10 in 1, 10 questions in 1 minute that I would encourage our audience also to participate if they have time to type their answer. But ask you very fast 10 questions and in 1 minute and get your first insight on a lot of things we want to hear from you.
And let's see if as a professor and author, I can actually give you short answers. I'll do my best, my friend.
Okay, so let me just prepare. And you're ready, by the way?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's go for the first one. So the first one, the heart of competitive intelligence is beating the competition, getting more results, or making better decisions?
Making better decisions. In fact, competition is really not something that we focus on as much anymore. It's more about satisfying customers.
Great. Number 2, events are opportunities to gather most competitive information in the shortest time for the least amount of money. Exactly? Not always, or depends.
Yes, exactly. Not always, or depends. So the reason I'm giving you a vague answer is we have proven, we as in this field, that in 3 days you can gather more information at an event than you could in 1 year any other way. So we know it's there, but only if you're organized. Too many people go to these events not organized. So exactly if you're organized depends on how often and how you organize, or not always. If you do like most people do, randomly show up, look at what's going on and say, boy, I hope I'm going to run into somebody.
Perfect. And I think all of you are hearing it very carefully, because a lot of you thinking you get the best, but you don't even know what you do not know yet. Number 3, Jonathan, events are excellent places to learn about market trends, new technologies, market opportunities, or competitive plans and products.
Absolutely, yes. And in fact, I got lots of examples of companies, governments, non-government organizations, you name it, going to these events and learning many of the things that you've on that list. And I can give you probably 20 more items that you can learn very effectively by being at an event. And let me add one more thing into that list. It's also a great place to develop your network.
Absolutely. And by the way, it was a tricky question. You said all the above. I asked you to choose, but you didn't. Number 4, event intelligence is must for the growth of every professional service firm. Big time? Only in your dreams, Itzik? Or maybe in the future?
Big time. And those that are not taking advantage of it, I hope you will, after this talk, get the book. It's available for free, and utilize some of the tips that are in there.
Great. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Number 5, event intelligence always starts before even the event takes place. Not always. You bet. Or don't put words in my mouth, Itzik.
I tell my clients to start at least 6 months before the event to put their plans together. Heck, if they do it the night before, they're doing it better than 99% of the people I deal with.
Absolutely. And a lot of you missing it and just coming to the event unprepared. And that's why you fail, by the way.
Or is they think they're prepared, but when they see what being prepared really means, they go, no, that's not what I'm doing.
And they keep doing the same mistake every year again and again. Number 6, not gaining market insight from events slow a firm growth. Sometimes, every single time. Oh, don't make me mad, Itzik.
Well, sometimes people get lucky. Now, do you want to get lucky or do you want to be smart? So, yeah, of course, it slows a firm's growth because you're going to miss trends, what's happening in the marketplace, what customers are talking about, because you're never going to get that diversity of group together.
Absolutely. And by the way, lucky is also doing things not according to statistics. It's not kind of winning the lottery or something, right?
Yeah.
Number 7, to take market share from your competition, you first have to know your competitive advantage your competition, list of clients, or everything about your competitors?
Or none of the above. Sun Tzu says you got to know yourself and you got to know the enemy. So if you don't understand both, good luck. And as I said before, it's more about knowing what not the competition, but what the customers truly want, where their needs are going. Let's remember that classic Ford line. If I asked the customer what they wanted, they'd say a faster horse.
Great answer. Number 8, one of the most important sources of gaining market insights is industry events, client events, or I'm still looking for it.
So the book on event intelligence talks about trade shows, conferences, the Christmas party, Hanukkah party. Anytime people are getting together is a unique opportunity for gaining market insights.
And by the way, even the elevator, when you're standing with people in the elevator, that's a common.
You know, we're talking about in synagogue, in the mosque.
Number 9, Jonathan, is ethics important for gathering market insight? Absolutely. Why should it be, or why should it, or depends on the circumstances?
Absolutely, 100%. And the book will talk about a comprehensive set of ethics around this. And here's the neat thing. Since the idea is, once again, to gather information and develop networks that will last for a long time, engaging in behavior that is unethical is stupid because it will catch up to you. Be yourself.
Absolutely. Shit always float, right? No. Number 10, how many relationships are relevant to getting market insight? In some cases, they are always or not always at all.
Well, look, I'm not going to prevent you from. Let's just say that we network with purpose. So some of our friends are going to be because it will help us for market insights. Some are going to be our friends because we have a lot in common and we want to be friends. Don't become a user. Don't just say I'm going to be your friend because you got valuable insights from me.
And unfortunately, we all know people who are doing it, so don't be like them. As we call it, by the way, the network jerk. So awesome, Jonathan. This was, in fact, a very fast thing. Then it beat a little bit more than 1 minute, which is perfect with the timing. And that takes us actually to the meat, to the real discussion I want to have with you today. Because as I shared with you in your intro, Jonathan, and you mentioned you wrote the book called Gaining Market Insights from Event. As we said, it'll be free and available, and we're giving people an insight how to get it. But my first question to you, Jonathan, based on that, why you wrote this book?
Okay. So the reason I wrote that book, and key thing is, and why I said with the strategic competitive intelligence professionals, if you want to publish it, make it available for free, is because I've been at so many events that I understand how important managing them are for organizations. And to give you just a few of the groups. So I'm from that group on anticipatory systems, as I mentioned, market research, foresight, competitive intelligence, market insight, who has proven that we can go to these events and in 3 days gather a year's worth of information. So I said, let's write a book that will help people in that field do it more effectively because even they have problems. There's a second and third group, and you mentioned it. I've staffed booths. I've gone to events to buy things, help clients buy things. I went to one event recently for help them on their 10-year equipment acquisition strategy. The reason people go to events is to learn and to eventually buy. The reason people are in booths is to provide information and learn from what's going on. Well, that's the same type of people that need the information that I'm talking about. So how can you make your boothers more effective? How can you make your trade show wanderers more effective? And finally, and again, you got to remember, I've given hundreds of these seminars and I've led so many companies. It's not just, how do I put this? Companies will send their market people, their salespeople to trade shows. There's a fourth group that's bigger, and that's those that should be going to trade shows that are not. Let me give you a quick example. Many trade shows now are marketing themselves as the place to go to for open innovation. Many of the companies I work with say to their R&D staff, go to events and learn what's cool, what's new, right? This is a very non-traditional group going to events. And I think when I wrote the book, and I've even said it, anybody who needs to understand that external environment should be getting to an event. And it's just one final point on that. You started this off by saying people are returning to events in droves. I've got a few articles on mining virtual events. And I got to tell you, I love those virtual events for a variety of reasons. You can ask me about it. But most importantly, is because all these other people I've mentioned can actually participate because it doesn't cost the organization anything but their time.
Exactly. And those resources can help you very much to gather more intelligence in the right places. Because
Yeah.
more people pay attention to different things, seeing different things. That is awesome. I mean, that's amazing because I think people start feeling more, something that I, for many years as a lawyer, discovered that the intangibility of event, if you enjoy it and you see it, and if you're curious, you see a totally different sort of event if you're just going there and just hanging around, drinking and hoping and thinking and don't do anything with it. And by the way, this is out of professional service industry. Most people don't have intentional behavior. They have hope behavior. As you know, hope are not tragedies. Those you are joining us, please, right now, please put your
Yeah.
name in the chat. Let us know who you are. We want to know
And
you are with us.
just
And
to add to that, my dad was a very successful lawyer. I was in an accounting firm. We went to all these events, and sometimes dad and I went together. And again, from the stuff I've done, there was two comments that I had to dad and to others. It was, look what you could have learned. And I'm saying that because afterwards we chat about what's important to them. And I said, if that's what's important to you, there was 3 sessions, 5 speakers, and 10 people with that expertise. Why didn't you seek them out? That's called the planning. The second part is, if you actually want to talk to somebody, back to random and dumb luck or plan, well, you got to figure out the best way to approach them. You got to figure out, even, are you the right person to approach the individual to ask for information? Who should be my friends? I go to events with clients and I say, your goal is not to pick up any information. Your goal is to make 10 new friends who have information that will help you from now till the end of time for your organization. So again, that goes back to, we're all going to these events. Many of us are having fun, and many people see these events as my reward for working hard within my organization.
Exactly. They see it as the fanfare and not as hard work. But
Yeah.
nobody said when you work, you don't have to enjoy, right? Don't have to suffer. But you're right. And I think definitely after the Corona crisis, more firms, more professional firms are really looking really specifically on which event to attend, why should we spend the money, how do we get results? And indeed, this session should teach. I mean, you're invited, by the way, those of you joining us to learn. We're here with Professor Jonathan Calof talking about how to gain market insights from events. And I promise you, you should stick around because the more interesting thing coming in. And I'm already coming to the next question to you, Jonathan. To those of you joining us, if you have your question, please put it also in the chat because I would love to address your question to Jonathan. Otherwise, I'll continue asking my own. But please do. Don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed. Put also your question in the chat so I can address them to Jonathan. So, Jonathan, okay, let's dive more into this interesting and very important subject as we see. In order to get the ROI from event, you need to use specific skills. So please help us, Jonathan. What are maybe 1 or 2 important skills you see, according to your book, your knowledge and experience, that people should have to be successful with that?
All right, so I'm going to give you the 2 biggest ones for events. One is planning skill. Okay, and that means I need to know what my company and I need to know. Number 1. Number 2, in planning, is it already in the organization? Are there easier ways to get it? Remember, shows are temporal, meaning after 3 days, it's over. You cannot go back in time and go, geez, what I really should have done was. And planning also means being very creative when you look at what's happening at the event. It's not just the title of the workshop that matters. It's who's the speaker. Is the speaker somebody that, according to my plans of the organization, is somebody I need to meet with? Who are the discussants? And this is what I'm loving about events these days. Who's going to be at the session? Because you can sometimes see who signed up, that their questions matter to me. I need to know what's on their mind. Mm-hmm. I want to hear what the customers are asking. I want to hear what the competitors are asking. So that's the whole planning dimension. Look creatively at it. Start well in advance. Know what you need to know. The second part is collecting. And there is an art to collecting. I mean, human beings are pack animals. We want to talk to each other. It's called trade show, not trade protect. So probably the easiest environment that you'll ever be in for collecting information. But that being said, psychology, biology, and neuropsychology are at work, right? I pointed you to the back of the brain here. there's something going on in here that makes a judgment call really quickly as to whether you're a person I want to talk to, flight versus fright. So if I'm an extrovert and I'm going to hug you and you're an introvert standing like this, well, it's not going to go well. And so that's part of planning and part of skills. It's who's the right person to connect to this individual. Now, Itzy, when the virtual trade shows came on, the number 2 of the skip said, "You must love this stuff." And I said, "No, I don't." I said, "I know you can get a lot of stuff virtually. It's great." I said, "But my skill set," and I said this to Michelle, who you had met before, when you see me at an event, you hug me. When people see you and I hugging each other, they go, "Calof must be okay if these people like him." When I talk to you at an event, I don't lie. I mean, that's back to the ethics. I will not lie. I'm honest, even if it's going to get me into trouble. But you see that in the body language. I said, that's how I come across. And you might not like me for a variety of reasons, but you know I'm being honest. You know I'm warm. You know I'm friendly. Can't do that in text box. Even with emojis, but God help me, I keep making mistakes on
it. I agree. Although, as I'm from 2005 involved in virtual event during Corona, I did a lot of them, but I 100% agree with you, especially when you're talking about connecting, finding the right parties, collecting the right information. Those things, it's very much body language, behavior is a big component of it, and you cannot see it online when everybody's smiling or you see the faces, you don't even know what they're doing.
But there's a but. If you want to connect to people, you need to do background on them. You need to know who they are and where everything fits. On the virtual shows, I go click, click, and there's their LinkedIn profile. Okay. And then I notice I have a level 2 with them who I quickly say, can you message them and tell them who I am? Again, I don't like unethical behavior. I say, be honest about who I am. I'd love to talk to them. So I have enough background. I go to the net. I look at what they've written, what they've talked about. I'm now armed with the information required to connect to you, to figure out whether I'm the right person. And I also now know what your real expertise is, so I know what questions to ask. At a conference, trade show, workshop, that's pre-work I have to do in advance. And if I meet somebody I didn't expect to be there, well, for God's sake, you can't sit there Googling on your phone, because that'll tell them you're not interested. And unless you have those Google glasses, that scan, you're not going to get a printout of everybody who's there and some of their background. So recognize you need to be prepared to make these things work. And virtual does have its advantages in helping you prepare.
At the same time, it does not come across, if you prepared for a physical event, live event, then really come across you give attention to people, while online you maybe spend a few seconds just before. But if you did it well in advance and show it really travel show, they know instead of playing with the children, watch Netflix, you spend time looking at the profile online and they can prepare. So I mean, you're right, but there's sides for both, I guess, right?
But it's even when you talk about the virtual online, I'm glad you brought that up about the Netflix and everything else. Now again, I'm not going to take you through what's in here right now, but Itzy knows this. I help produce movies every couple of years with my buddy in LA, who's a big producer. And what I've got sitting in my office here is a set. Yeah. Right. This is not an office. This is 6 lights. This is 5 webcams, 4 microphones. It's an interesting setup. But here's the key thing. It's you and I want to connect. Okay. You want to see me, if it's virtual, and go, I can trust Calof. Now, the easy way is you're a friendly. We've been introduced. We know each other. It's a piece of cake. The tough way is when we go like this. And this is also to the audience that's out there. Now, when we want to make somebody look guilty or devilish in films, we shoot upwards. If we want them to look innocent, we shoot either eye level or down. That's why newscasters are at the eye. Most of the time when I'm on these virtual events, the camera's going up their nose. I mean, I see how many nose hairs they got. And then something back here goes, they're not trustworthy. Okay. Now, at a real show, no, that doesn't happen. If you're looking up my nose, it's because you're too short compared to me. But here we have to realize what we do, how we behave, how we portray ourselves is going to impact whether you want to connect and share information and insights.
So true. And it's insightful. I hope that people listening to us seeing it and understanding the same event they're going. But now These are different insights, the same place you're going. So you pay attention to the next event you will go to implement things we're learning from Jonathan today. Again, if you're just joining us, you're invited to join us. I'm with Professor Jonathan Calof, talking about how to gain market insights from events. The floor is yours. If you have questions, Jonathan, put it in the chat, and I
Absolutely.
ask it for Jonathan.
I love to chat. I'm going to go back to also something you just said. And when you say I want you to do things differently, all right, again, I've been to enough shows since I was 12 years old, so I say this with great confidence. I've already talked to you about the planning, and I hope to everybody else that makes a lot of sense. Duh, look at what's going on. Look who will be there. And there's two other things. Look for friendlies. Look at people who will be at that event who care about you or your company. Maybe they'll help you gather information. Maybe you could help them gather information, but know that in advance. The reason for the friendlies is because number 4, every time I go to events, here's what I see from accounting, law firms, companies. You go to an event, at the event is 3 of your work colleagues. And you grab onto them like you haven't seen them forever. And you're talking office politics. I took a group from Newfoundland to a technology show, and I joked that I'm a soccer coach. And with 6-year-olds and 5-year-olds, you have this blanket test. If I throw the blanket out, how many of you do I catch in one blanket? And it's normally all the team but one. I said, I could have done the same thing to you. You guys traveled as a group. People who have lunch together every friggin' week and drink together, yet you went like a gaggle from place to place and talk to each other instead of the others. So I said, once you're aware that human behavior says, let's grab on to those people we know and are familiar with, you go to an event and you go, I'm not going to do that. And my final example of that is one of my favorite clients. And you talk
Just
about
1 second, Jonathan. The microphone, you are touching it. It makes a lot of noises.
Sorry about
People
that.
give remarks to us, so they cannot hear you very well.
Okay,
So
can you hear me clearly now?
Yeah, but you are brushing against a microphone, and that's why it takes.
That's part of it. The other part of it is, I think we're good. I'm going to switch.
Great.
I'm going to this is why I've got this. I'm going to switch microphones.
Great.
Because that's another part of it. I'm now on a different microphone. How's that?
We hear you very well. Awesome.
Of course. That's why I have the setup. So that part about grabbing onto people you already know. One of my favorite clients is the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons. Doctors, they go to all sorts of events, right?
True.
And what they took away, they actually asked me to go on their next 2 events. And what they were particularly impressed with, they said, we always sit with the same people at these events. They said, now we're going to have to separate from each other and target each one of us. Who should you talk to? Who should you sit with? Who should you sit with? Who should you sit with? But remember, social, we'll get together 2-3 times a night to compare notes and be together, because I don't want to stop you from being friends with your friends. I just want you to recognize that human nature says, I'm going to grab those people I know well, not thinking about what are the insights that we can get.
Great. Absolutely. One of the top key things also when we teach networking, go away from your friends and colleagues and network alone. And exactly as you said, meet each other several times, compare notes, give things that you will not just double your effort, just gonna amplify your efforts. So, Jonathan, you may know, and you probably know because we know each other for a long time. I speak a lot about, authentic connection, how to build them, how to build it for a long-term relationship, also with clients, with colleagues, also in the industry. And I want to help our viewers think differently about it, while keep their authenticity. So my next question is referring to that. And we talked about the beginning, and I want you also to emphasize that point. What are the ethics associated with this, or how important are ethics when we talk about insight from trade show and events?
Okay, so I'm going to deal with 2 levels of that question. The first one is I go to an event and I realize the person I want to network with is very busy. Okay, they got more to do than talk to me and become my friend. So if I have to respect their time. And sometimes it might be a matter of saying, here's my connection with you. Mm-hmm. Can we get together afterwards and have a meal, have a drink? So I'm not going to push it there. All right, so recognize that. On the ethics side, and I got a couple of articles on the ethics of this. Do not misrepresent yourself. Do not. Be very honest with what you're doing and why. And again, if you do the right research on the individual, you know exactly how to present yourself honestly. And don't play games. I hate it when people say, well, there's many ways to tell the truth.
No, it's
And I
not.
told the partial truth. No, it's going to bite you in the you know what eventually. And the other thing is that if you engage in behavior that's unethical, and again, there's codes of ethic conduct that are in the book and elsewhere that I can point your viewers to, you know, if you do not behave ethically, if you do not behave ethically, they're not going to forgive you. And they're going to spread that word to others. This is what I love about the new generation. It will go out in social media. You are done. Second thing is your customers are not going to distinguish between your employee doing something unethical, the consultant you hire doing something unethical, or you. As far as they're concerned, it's your organization. So you want to trash your company? Yeah, do something stupid. And I've got horror stories of people with phony ID badges, phony websites, LinkedIn sites. This is called industrial espionage, not market insight. And I'm here to tell you, my friend, that having done this since I was 12, you actually can be honest. You can be forthright. And as long as you're prepared, it works. Again, we're back to people want to be friendly. But for God's sake, be open about it, be honest about it, and make sure you are who you say you are, because back to what I keep pointing to, we can't explain that. I mean, the doctors and scientists can. The person you're interviewing is going to pick up if something's out of whack. Okay? So if you're not consistent, if you're lying, pupils might dilate. They'll pick up on that one. Voice intonations, sweating. There's a lot of things that will be out of, and again, they're not going to be able to articulate why they don't like you. They're just going to say something doesn't add up. Itzy and I, in our native language, Hebrew, would say kol beseder. Everything's in order. And the person you're talking to goes, something's out of order here. It's not what I would expect in somebody who truly wants to network with me. So Itzy, the ethics are crucial. I take it one step further too, just for those to know. And this is for me because I'm a consultant.
Sure.
I've got hundreds of ID badges that identify me as Dr. Jonathan Calof, but the organizational affiliation is always the group I'm helping and representing. Okay, I'm not a University of Ottawa professor when I'm at the biotech event. It is unethical for me to represent myself as somebody I am not. I am there to help your company gather information. So that's what should be on my badge. And there's a lot of stuff that it goes wrong. I don't even want to go into it when you misrepresent yourself. Now, the bad news about that is when I die and my grandkids and kids are going through all these name badges, they're going to think that their grandfather couldn't hold down a job.
Love it. I mean, but in our professional service in the States, it's sometimes problematic to give you. But what I suggest in those cases is just to have no company at all, and then just set orally instead of just having your own. Because you're right, as you represent them, you're helping them collect for them information, and you should be there. But some, law firm afraid if you are not full employee, it's not ethical to put the name of the firm under your name because you're not there. So.
But then you got to figure out a way to communicate that. And that's number 2 rule of Skip. You got to honestly say who you are. So I'm representing a company in the industry. I'm representing a law firm. I cannot tell you what it is. That's a version of doing that. But I understand what you're saying. You don't work for that company. If they check it on the website, your name does not appear and you don't have a card from that company. That can create problems as well. But again, these companies hire consultants. I know this because most of the top law firms I work with have a CI unit, an intelligence unit. They know where to find information, how to do it. Second part of that is the majority of what I'm doing is not gathering for you. I'm helping you gather for yourself. So if I can train your staff who are going to an event and help them prepare the plan, I'm only there as a coach and a mentor. I'm there when we get together, but I am not there to gather information. All right. So trust me, everybody listening in, the tips that are in that book, and that's why I refer to those 4 different groups, anybody can do it. It's written in layman's language. It's not written in intelligence speak or academic speak.
But I will say loudly, it is very simple, but it's not easy because the reason is you didn't do it till today, even though you think you did it. So that's my personal opinion about that. But again, if you're interested in learning more about Jonathan and his work, you can connect him via LinkedIn. You can send me an email. I'll connect you too. And there will be more things coming on for both of us sooner or later, because you think we are playing in the same background to make you more successful in your firm, to pay attention, to gather the right intelligence from the right people, and not spend your time meeting the wrong people and then regretting that. So if you want to make sure you never miss one of our weekly Switch On interview series, follow me on LinkedIn or go to the Switch Up website. You can sign up, get my business development strategies and tips, and also you can be added to an email list where you get a regular reminder about our fantastic guests like today with Jonathan. So let's continue about this practical topic because we are already over the time, but I want to finish with one question I have for you, Jonathan, is what you and my client have learned at event. I mean, maybe you could give us some example of one business case.
Well, okay, so I'm going to start off with the company I was trying to help in their 10-year acquisition strategy. Very expensive stuff that they buy. You go to an event. I got to talk to people in the booth from the companies that supply, the chief technology officers from the main manufacturers, developers, took them out for lunch together. I got to talk to journalists who wrote articles about research in this industry. And you have to understand, articles are, I call them icebergs. 99% is below the surface. They couldn't write. So it was an ability to interview journalists, government, academia, all these different groups. So I could say to the client, you better, it's not about buying new equipment now. The whole standard is about to change in the next 4 years. Here's what's going to come out. You need to retrofit your building to take the technology. So that's one. I've gone to events and found joint venture partners. I had one company that said at a bio show, I want to find a good JV partner. And I said, okay, what does it look like? And again, we've all done the same thing. He says, I'll know them when I meet them. I said, okay, I'll choose your next wife that way. He laughed because he had picked a wife. It didn't work out. And both me and my mother had told him it wasn't going to work out. So I said, we need criteria so we can screen the people that are at the event to ensure that the ones you meet are most appropriate. And based on some comprehensive criteria, there was only 5 or 6 companies that made sense that we could contact before the event and say, let's get together. And now we have a very, very successful joint venture example. We've also got a lot of case examples of government developing policy based on, so that's what's going on. And that's how that government developed the policy, as they learned at that booth. Coming up with innovative products or products you thought were innovative, only to go to the event and go, we're going to come up with that in 3 years. And it looks like there's 5 companies coming out within the next 6 months. And one product is in the innovation area. I've got R&D examples. And again, for those in that sector, many of the shows I go to have what's called poster sessions. And those are sessions where scientists show you what they're working on in the companies. It's stuff coming out in 10, 15 years. Like, how's that for heads up as to what's going up? And so one of my pharmaceutical clients went, we were about to put $1 billion into that program. We're going to be 8 years behind. The people that
love it.
So a lot of really good examples of putting the science together, making sales by choosing the right customers. And it's one of the toughest things to say to people at these events is you need your criteria because not everybody you want to be your customer. Not every country that approaches you is where you should be going. Not every opportunity is an opportunity, it can be a threat. Let's have that set up beforehand. And that's the final story. I had one client set up, went to an event, had that criteria, got really excited. She called me and said, I think I found a great customer. And I said, how does it match my criteria? She went through and said, they're going to be a bad customer. She goes, I'm not going to meet with them tomorrow. And I said, good, because the criteria clearly indicated this person was going to be a very bad customer. So I've got a lot of stories from many events. The book has got a lot of examples as well, not just from my files, but I'm privileged that many of the senior statespeople in the different fields have contributed their knowledge to it as well, either in interviews or co-authoring chapters with me. So lots and lots and lots and lots of examples. And I smile each time, Itzy, because The first time you go with a coming to event, they go kicking and screaming. They go, events are not worth money. They're not worth it. We have to go there because everybody goes there. We know it's a waste, but we'll do it anyways. And I go, trust me, do this stuff. And so they go there, glumble, grumble, grumble. They plan 2 days beforehand. They come back and they go, this is not what I was expecting. And you say, good. So next year you'll plan earlier. And maybe you'll ask for more resources to go to the event. And they said, yeah, that's a really good idea. It's a 3-year cycle before they actually go, yeah, this makes sense. And the final thing with that, is that don't use the word intelligence. I talk about event knowledge management because that's really what it is. The clients get so excited with what they're able to do. Once you do this, I go, you can do this every day. They say, we don't go to events every day. I go, no, you don't. But you do meet people. You do search the internet. You're trying to get information. Believe it or not, there's a whole field devoted to how you can do this on a regular basis. And that's kind of the fun. Last thing I want to throw in, I know we're running out of time. You mentioned something about meeting people and they're not the people you should meet. I think that was valuable insight from you. But let me flip it to the other side of events. Do you think about who you invite to the office party? All right. I was able to get, if you're not Canadian, you might not understand this, the Stanley Cup. This is the big prize for hockey in North America. And a law firm asked me if they could borrow it from me. And subject to certain rules, they were allowed to. And so for the law firm, we sat down and said, who are the people you should be bringing here for whom they're going to go, wow, it's the cup, my picture's taken, and you need to have them think well about your firm. Or clients you want to repay. No, I'm not talking about your children and your spouses and your cousins and your aunts and your uncles. Those are important. Don't get me wrong. Who right in? What questions should I be asking them? What should I be doing to take advantage of that one time where I'm throwing an event and giving them something they have never had a chance to touch before?
Awesome, Jonathan. And I know we're over time, and I know we can talk hours about the subject, and I know people will get more from that because it's just the beginning. But for those of you listening to us and those of you hanging, thank you very much for that. As you learn in this insightful session, most professional firms are unfamiliar, in my opinion, with invaluable source of information on your market and competitors or other firms. And I refer to conferences, event, exhibition, seminars, all the things we talk about today. And moreover, most professional firms do not use a structured process we learned today from Jonathan as well, or known techniques to collect the right information systematically, and what I call also metaverse information, to help you outgrow your practice. And the consequences are often insufficient and disappointing results. So it's time to wake up over there and to see these other ways of doing it. I know some of them doing it already, and I salute you for doing it, but most of you don't. But now you know there is a structured way of doing it, and you learned today in this insightful session with Jonathan. So to summarize this great session, let me share a quote definitely can push many of you, quote by Jack Walsh, who I happy and spoke many times on stages with, who said, if you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. Very simple. I mean, you need to learn where you are advantaged. If you don't know what's going on in the market, you don't collect the right information, you'll connect to the wrong people, you get the wrong customers, and guess what? Growth will not going to happen to you. So now, my friend, it's time to take action and implement what you have learned in this session. I know we're over the time, but there was a lot of valuable information. I will not stop Jonathan of sharing. We've been here with Professor Jonathan Calof. He is one of the leaders in intelligence and foresight and event intelligence, top expert, and he's a good friend of mine. So if you want to learn more, definitely join us. Write an email, connect with Jonathan, connect with me to connect you with Jonathan. All possible. But for now, I want to thank you, Jonathan. So it's been fantastic having you here. Thank you very, very, very much. It's really honored that you are with us. And
anytime, anytime.
And Jonathan and myself want to thank each one of you who's still here with us, joining us. Thank you for that. And remember, next episode is next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central European Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. But now it's your time to switch on and start gathering great insight from the next event you're planning to attend this year. From us, goodbye for now. Bye, everybody.